Welcome again. Thank you so much, everyone. The 2025 Climate Action Kickoff year. We are going to start with some introductions before sharing a little on the agenda for the evening. So I'll kick it off. I'm Chelsea Alexander. I use she, her, aya pronouns. I work as the Movement Building and Volunteer Director with 350 Colorado, and I am based in Lakewood. Pass it over to Heidi.
Hey everyone, I'm Heidi Leithwood. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Climate Policy Analyst for 350 Colorado. I live in Denver. And I'll pass it on to Sarah.
Hello, my name is Sarah Burke. I live in Fort Collins. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the Northern Colorado Team Coordinator for 350. And I will pass to Matt.
Hey everybody, my name is Matt Gose. I use he, him pronouns, and I am located out here in Arvada. I will pass it over to Micah.
Hey everybody, I'm Micah Parkin, Executive Director of 350 Colorado. I go by she, her pronouns. I live in Boulder, Colorado, and I'll pass it over to Steve.
Hey everybody, this is Steve Kushner, use he, him pronouns. I'm here in the Roaring Fork Valley, which goes from Aspen down to Glenwood Springs. And I'm so happy everybody's joined us, and I'm going to pass it over to Bobby.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. I'm Bobby Mooney, and I'm the Beyond Oil and Gas Campaign Director and Staff Attorney with 350 Colorado, and I'm based in Denver, and I'll pass it to Melissa.
Hi, everyone. I get to round us out. I am Melissa. I use she, her pronouns. I am based in South Denver, and I get to work with the Denver, Boulder, and Colorado Springs teams. And I will pass it back to Chelsea for the agenda.
Thank you so much. If we had a smaller group, we would so go around for some introductions, but we would love to meet you in the chat. So please follow the same prompt, name, pronouns if you're comfortable, where you're at. That will help spark off further connections, hopefully. So with that, here's what we're going to be covering tonight. We're going to start with some grounding and recapping what 2024 was at the global, national, and more local, statewide level. We're not going to hit every single detail, of course, but we want to give you the broad strokes that are influencing how we move forward. Touching on the challenges as well and having some time for some group share and conversation around that. And that also then leading into talking about what shared strengths we have right now and in the face of so much uncertainty and the continued intensification of the climate crisis. And then the part that we will definitely spend a good amount of time on is goals and roles. So the way that we're moving our work forward and how it needs to be as collaborative and community-based as possible with everyone's ideas and energy and passions and experiences. Plus a group poll, again, just to keep the dialogue going, and then we'll wrap up and move it forward. So if you have questions as we go along, please also use the chat. We'll have our team monitoring that, and we'll do our best to answer that as we go along. So we want to just start further with some gratitude for what has gotten us to this point and send out so much appreciation and recognition for what all of you have done here, not only in 2024, I'm sure, but before then, the many efforts that have built upon themselves to get us to where we are today. So if you feel that you didn't do enough, you could have done more, try to set those things aside and recognize that every single effort matters. And we see every single person here equally as leaders that are all working to create a better future and working through what was a difficult year. It had a lot of wonderful things, and it also had a lot of difficult things. So hopefully we can hold space for that and do this work and gratitude. So right before we get into this recap, we want to hear also from y'all. Quick poll, what brought you here tonight? What is your why? Was there something that kind of inspired you to re-engage and be a part of things? You know, so many of you here have been organizing for a while. And then there are a number of you that are also brand new, and we welcome you and can't wait to get to know you. Yeah. Anyone want to come off mute? One or two people? We would love to hear folks share. What brought you here tonight?
It's Jan in Inglewood. I came because I've been not very active, and I wanted to kind of catch up.
We see you, Jan. Thank you for all that you're doing.
I'm Allison from here in Denver. I've always loved 350 Colorado and been involved in some of your stuff. And I just want to see how I can get the congregation where I attend involved in actions, letter writing, whatever, because we're going to need to be doing a lot of that this year. And I just want to be part of this community.
Thank you, Allison. So good to see you again. Thank you for everything you've done.
Kate Hudson. I live in Carbondale, but I actually work for a national organization, and I joined the call tonight because I want to get active locally.
Nice.
Hello, hello.
That's right, Steve. If you're not already connected, there we go. Nice. I'm seeing some stuff in the chat too, perhaps some folks sharing leadership skills. Yes. Braden. Open energy. Absolutely. For families, sons, students, community. I'm here for all of this.
I'm Frank Ruby in Loveland, and I'm here tonight because, well, what's going on in Washington right now is really pretty scary. Last night I gave a presentation on electrification, and I think everyone's just really shocked, even those who are fairly committed to climate action. And it's just not a good time from my perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. It's good to get real where we can too and name these things. There's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot to be sitting with and experiencing in this week we're in, this time we're in. So hopefully we can hold that more throughout the evening and give it some space to breathe, feel a little better by the end of it. Well, great. I think we find in our organizing that grounding in our why and our story and really just allowing that to guide the organizing we do is just so powerful. Something that really can't be stripped away from us when there is so much uncertainty sometimes. So lean into that. Yeah, find that and use it to your benefit as you move things forward. So with that, let's recap the year. There's so many moving parts to weave together in the climate crisis, let alone the poly crisis, which we're experiencing and seeing so many sweeping changes in our systems and our society. But we're going to start our way from the global down to the local. And with that, I will pass it over to Melissa.
Thank you. And there is so much that could be said in this, and I feel like the global climate aspect could be this entire call, but I will make sure to keep it brief. And these are some big trends that we saw, some records that were broken, and then I know that a lot of this can feel really overwhelming, and it is important to remember that we are going to be talking about action steps and things that you can take moving forward. So looking at some of the records over 2024, just as the consistent trends over the last 10 years, 2024 was the world's warmest year on record, and it was also the first year that the average temperature clearly exceeded 1.5 degrees Celsius warming above pre-industrial levels. And as a reminder, that's the threshold that was set by the Paris Agreement to reduce the risk and impact of the intensity of climate change. So there's a lot of impacts that come with that. We see oceans warming and ice melting, a lot of species extinction. But in spaces outside of that, there's also a lot of activism and people mobilizing every year, which a lot of you probably know this, that there is a global climate conference. It's called COP, the Conference of the Parties, and it's organized by the UNFCCC, the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. This last year was the 29th one. It was in Baku in Azerbaijan, and it was deemed the finance COP. And we saw people agreeing to triple the amount of climate finance for developing countries specifically from 100 billion to 300 billion annually by 2030. It's a lot of forward moving energy and people trying to plug in. And in addition to that, there were so many records broken in terms of renewable energy that these sources like solar, wind, hydro, geothermal, that were generating electricity more than ever before. And for the first time ever, solar and wind combined to generate more electricity than coal in the United States in 2024. It also is important to mention that as we're thinking about the global space, that 2024 held a lot of conflict and there was violence and militarization in many different spaces. And specifically with the war in Gaza, there was a huge amount of environmental impact from toxic waste pollutants that are going to persist in the environment for decades and centuries to come, and the amount of carbon that was released from the militarization. And we're really hoping that in 2025, moving forward, that there's still emphasis on that. The last thing that I'll say is that there is a huge amount of global energy looking towards COP30, which is the Conference of the Parties that will happen this year. It's going to be in Belém in Brazil, and it has a lot of benchmarks because it's 10 years after the Paris Agreement was formed, it's 5 years before 2030, and also in this year in 2025. That's a significant date for various activist campaigns over the years. So with that, I will take this and pass it over to Heidi to talk more about what has happened in the United States.
Hi, everybody. I just want to say before I get started how great it is to see all of you here, and it just it's so important to me to be in a community of people that care about the climate. So just to sort of recap big events nationally, of course, there's continued record-breaking climate disasters, especially as we're seeing in the recent wildfires in Los Angeles. And then we have our election, which, as we know, Trump has already announced pulling out of the Paris Agreement again and trying to roll back everything he can in terms of climate progress. However, he may not actually succeed in rolling back the biggest climate bill in history, the Inflation Reduction Act, because most of that money that's been going out to help with the transition to a clean energy economy has been going to red states. So hopefully he'll be getting some pushback from those states in rolling that back. There have been some big wins in court nationally in Montana. Held versus Montana, the youth lawsuit suing the state for not protecting their right to a clean and healthy environment. And the Supreme Court in Montana did just hold that these youth have a right to a clean and healthy environment that has been trampled on by the state. Also, the Supreme Court has been rejecting oil companies' bids to move state lawsuits to the federal level where they think they'll get a better chance. But the Supreme Court just a few days ago rejected the oil company bid in the Hawaii case, where Hawaii is suing oil companies about their climate misinformation. Overall, nationally, voters are in favor of phasing out fossil fuel extraction, especially Democratic and independent voters. So in this national climate going forward, we really need to look to state leadership. And Colorado is a state that where we have a chance to make a really big impact. Looking at what some other states have done, Vermont and New York have both passed historic laws called climate superfund laws in order to make the biggest climate polluters in their state pay for climate damages. In Washington state, voters soundly rejected a repeal of an important act called the Climate Commitment Act for funding. And California voters just approved $10 billion to fund water, climate, and wildfire prevention projects. And that's just an overview. There's more stuff going on, but just to emphasize, what we're doing together here in Colorado is really of the utmost importance now, especially under the new administration federally. And I'll pass this on to Matt.
Thanks so much, Heidi. Yeah, I am going to talk a little bit about what's going on in Colorado. Obviously, we can't really cover everything, but a few highlights and just things to call out here. So, beginning with the legislative session, there was some real history made last year in the pursuit of Senate Bill 24159, which was the phase out and cleanup bill, as some of you might be familiar with, aiming to phase out the fracking permits in the state of Colorado gradually and also clean those areas up. It was a big moment in terms of turnout as well, having well over 60 different organizations on board with that, and over 180 people at one point at the Capitol advocating for this bill, not to mention like the countless hours of testifying. So that was a huge moment for a really historic bill that, unfortunately didn't pass, but, the turnout was amazing. Also, moving forward, we have Senate Bill 24214, which was implementing state climate goals, which is not necessarily a good thing in the way that it was set up, but basically extending the deadlines for the Public Utilities Commission, amongst other groups, to set greenhouse gas emission reduction targets. So that is news, and it's not necessarily all good, but there were some other definitive lines carved out in that plan that were great. And then, as the last thing here, there was the deal. And the deal, as some people might know, is it was an interesting time where there was a couple of really nasty oil and gas bills on the docket that were going to get passed. And then there were also a few organizations pushing some ozone bills as well in terms of monitoring, enforcement, and cleanup. That basically there was a deal signed where both the oil and gas bills passed and the oil and gas legislation was denied, and the trade-off there also being about a 3-year period of where Governor Polis has said they are not going to be entertaining any oil and gas legislation whatsoever. So I would consider that a setback as well. But moving on to some wins, because there's some good things that happened too. There was a big increase in funding from $2 to $5 million for Colorado-based water projects. A large chunk of that is coming from sports gambling revenue, which is interesting. But it should be going to managing and creating more sustainable water flows in the state, which is awesome. And then for the first time in about 10 years, CSU's publication of the 2024 Climate Change in Colorado report, which serves as a lot of guidelines in moving forward. How much of an impact have we already had? One of the things I remember reading in there is that they've increased the potential for warming in the state of Colorado from 1.5 to potentially 4 up to 2.5 to potentially 5 degrees of warming by 2050. So the time to act is now. So we're so happy that all of you are here. And then lastly, a bit of a federal kind of merging with Colorado State. We secured $328 million in total grants from the Inflation Reduction Act to go towards different renewable energies in the state, like solar and wind and all of that. And so that's being utilized. And with that, I am going to pass it over to Bobby to talk about the challenges a little bit in 2024.
Thank you, Matt, and thank you, Melissa and Heidi and Matt, for all that context about 2024. That is a lot, right? Just hearing it all, I'm feeling a lot of emotions, right? Like some real ups and downs, some good news, some hard news. There's just a lot to take in. And 2023 was the hottest year on record until 2024 became the hottest year on record. So the intensity of the news we're receiving is just kind of reaching a new height. And we're learning that recent warming is moving a little faster than expected, but we don't yet know if this recent acceleration is part of a long-term trend or not. And we do know that the Paris Agreement target of staying below 1.5 degrees Celsius is now not attainable. Scientists expect the global long-term average to exceed that number in the next 5 to 10 years. But on the other hand, since the Paris Agreement, the world has actually avoided the worst case warming scenarios due to climate action. Scientists no longer expect the world could warm 5 to 6 degrees by the end of the century, which is a really big deal because when the Paris Agreement was signed just 8 years ago, that was a possibility or even a plausible scenario. So there's some good news too, right? There's good news if you look for it, but there's also a lot of bad news, and especially feel like a lot of it right now. and I'm feeling it. And so there's probably many of you that are feeling it too. It's heavy right now, right? There's a lot of uncertainty. We might be feeling a lot of fear. I know I'm feeling grief. I'm sometimes feeling anger. But I also feel a lot of hope too, and love for this movement, especially when I see dozens and dozens of people getting together on a call like this to plug in to climate action, people who care and are ready to do something, right? And I think an important part of what we do right now is that part about feeling our feelings, right? I know many of us are not comfortable with feeling the feels, but I will tell you that it is a critical part of cultivating meaningful climate action. This is the time to role model emotional maturity, which means processing and moving through the emotions that we feel as they arise rather than trying to suppress them or even reacting rashly to them. Just let them arise, observe them, and let them pass. And by doing this, we can see that emotions are temporary, emotions are always changing, and emotions can be fuel for meaningful action. So the skill set of emotional maturity is one that helps us tremendously when we're facing the big challenges ahead. And so I want to share with you all one resource that I have found really helpful. This is something you can share with friends and family that are awakening to the climate crisis and other big issues that we face. It's called the Unthinkable Resource Hub, and we've got a link to share with you in the chat. Bookmark this one, check it out and share it. It can really help. And I think we need to take this kind of stuff really seriously, our emotional and mental health and resiliency, because the challenges we face are so serious. Some of those challenges, as we see them facing the climate movement here in Colorado, include, first of all, the power of the fossil fuel industry. It still influences how everything in our lives is made, is powered, is grown, is packaged, is transported, and disposed of, right? Literally everything. And with that is the complacency of the government, maintaining the status quo, right? Not rocking the boat. Corporate money and politics can essentially pay our electeds to do nothing, to center the short-term profits of corporations over people and planet. Another challenge is that we don't yet have enough distributed leadership and organizing. We know that grassroots movements best accelerate scaling up through distributed leadership. So decentralized organizing is more effective and more resilient because it can be more responsive to community needs and flexible enough to try greater diversity in strategies. We want to be too diverse to fail. Although this is improving in the climate movement and groups like 350 Colorado can help lead the charge, we're still a long way off from that distributed power structures that we really need to transform our world and fully tackle the climate crisis. Another challenge is limited funding. It can often feel like there's never enough for the good work that we want to do. We're working with limited resources and often competing sometimes for funding against other good causes that are so equally needed right now in this moment. And all of that kind of ties to one of the biggest challenges, which is the extractive economy that we live in. Colonialism, capitalism, consumerism, militarism, there's a lot of isms that make up the system. We're living in a global system that effectively controls, consumes, and oppresses people and the more than human world. It's complex and seemingly inescapable. Just by existing, we can be victims of the system and perpetrators as well. And though these harmful systems are clearly starting to crack and crumble, we can feel it, they are still a dominant force in our lives today. So these are the challenges that our work faces, and many more that I know you all can think of. But yet, I want to say, yet here we are facing these challenges together. I want to thank you so much for being here tonight, for being brave and determined and not backing down or giving up, because there are so many ways that we together can meet these challenges. So 350 Colorado folks have some specific ideas to share with you here tonight, but I know many of you have great ideas and strategies in mind as well. And we need your voices. We need you to share your thoughts and ideas with this movement. It really is going to take everyone. So I want to invite you all to do a little brainstorming right now here together. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how we meet these challenges. So I invite you to come off mute or put it in the chat. Let's get some brainstorming going about some ways that we can meet these challenges together.
I see a question about from Susan, curious to hear more about distributed leadership. Do you want to say more about that, Bobby?
Sure, that's a great question. We've got some resources on that we could follow up with, Susan. And I will say, I mean, part of that theory is kind of moving beyond super centralized leadership and letting communities and neighborhoods and individuals be leaders in their own communities. So distributing that leadership rather than it being a top-down approach. We want a grassroots powered movement that can be very localized and very tailored to individual locations, the different community needs, the different environments they're in, the different economies they have in their local area. So very distributed power structures.
I just wanted to offer a perspective from someone who has been through this once before, because I started my job in Colorado in January of 2017. All of you know what that marked, the beginning of the first Trump administration. And there was a lot of finger in the dike work we did. And a lot of it is long game, but we managed, and this is a very big we, obviously, but all the people that did that work managed to turn things around. So we were headed in a completely different direction under the last administration. And one of the things that I noted recently is that a court just threw out a Trump regulation that was challenged back in 2020. And so it's going to take 4 or 5 years, but that doesn't mean we don't need to bring the challenges now. So I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, thank you, Kate.
I don't know that I should say I feel optimistic because we're here again, but we did it last time and I know we can do it again.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that perspective. And I'm seeing lots of great ideas popping up in the chat, connecting to schools and kids, litigation setup. We can partner with lots of great groups that are working on litigation, partnering with legislators, absolutely. We're working on that, and we need more constituents like you all to contact their legislators and be citizen leaders on that. Bringing awareness, great. So many good ideas. We'll keep them coming, right? Like we need your ideas. We need your suggestions, your perspectives, your insights. So keep them coming, reach out, get involved, and share them with each other. Because we can do this together. I mean, it's literally the only way we can is working together. And together we can do this work. We've made so many wins over the years, and we're going to keep fighting together to do it. All right. What do you think, Sarah?
Yeah, thank you so much, Bobby. And thanks everyone for your ideas. It's very helpful to see that together we can definitely take on those challenges, which brings us so nicely into our next section, which is our shared strengths. So I don't know about you guys, but over the past week, I've been feeling pretty scared. Feeling like every time I check my phone, there are more challenges, so much so that I had to delete the New York Times notifications because there were just too many challenges. Weighted blanket didn't quite feel heavy enough this week. And it is not fun to live scared. And I remember when I was little and I was scared from the movie, my mom said that if we live in fear, the bad guys win. And I am not ready to let the bad guys win. So we're going to talk a little bit about what we can do when we're a little scared and to remember what we do have when it feels like a little hopeless or like we're just one person and there's a lot working against us. So what we do have going for us is that we know that we're on the right side of history, right? We stand for all the right things, for love, compassion, justice, equality, liberation, and harmony with nature. We have public opinion on our side, we have science on our side, and just morally, we can rest so easily knowing that even though it's a really hard fought battle, that we are doing the right thing and we're doing the best that we can in that thing. And the second thing we have is each other. So on this call, if you want to take your little cursor and move to the arrow, you can click through and see just how many people are on this call. And it's 6:30 on a weekday, and you probably could be doom scrolling or rotting on the couch or keeping up with reality TV or going for a very cold, dark walk. There are so many other things you could be doing, but you're here and you want to do something. You care enough to be here, and that's a huge step in the right direction. The administration, the people in power, they thrive when we feel powerless, when we feel alone, when we feel isolated. So even just bringing people together creates so much power. And if they knew about this Zoom call, they'd be shaking in their boots because there is so much good energy here, and we are definitely moving in the right direction. So there is something called active hope. And sometimes it feels like we can't act if we are feeling hopeless, like we have to have hope to go on. But this is how we kind of create hope and move forward. So first we have to start with a clear view of reality. And that is the scary part. Figuring out what's going on and being informed is very scary. But we have to do it in order to do the second thing, which is where we identify our hope for the future. We come up with what we're trying to do, we come up with our values, we come up with how we are going to move forward. And then the third thing is we do what we can and we take steps to move ourselves or our situation in that direction. And that means we have to take care of ourselves and each other, and we have to just try to do the next right thing. And we're going to make mistakes and we're going to fail, and we're going to keep trying, and we're going to keep pushing toward that vision for the future. And we got another little slide. So we talked a little bit about our vision and our values. Obviously, we're here because we care about the climate. We want that just transition, right? We want to focus on justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion, and use these values to get us to a clean, green future where everyone can breathe healthy air and drink healthy water. And it seems like things that should be happening, like it doesn't seem like super crazy to want those things. But that's our vision of the future. That's what we're moving towards. And I saw something yesterday that talked about the importance of a positive vision of the future. And it said that there's so much scary stuff going on that without a positive vision of the future, we live in survival mode. And we fixate on threats, so we always have something to flee but not to run towards. And the way out of survival mode is to imagine and pursue a positive future or follow someone who does. And that's what we're doing here tonight. We're trying to come up with that positive future, and we're taking steps towards that. That leads us into community and relational organizing. That's what we're all about. We're all here. I saw people in the little chat making connections and figuring out how to work together. And that's our biggest power. People power is so huge. When you look at past campaigns and past movements, it's because people gathered in community and they shared their strengths with each other and they started connecting. And that is the biggest part of resistance. So we're already doing such good things here tonight. And then the final thing is we're going to try to embody the living economy, which is the opposite of what Bobby was talking about, right? So this is just the way that things should be, where we prioritize community. And instead of having this idea of power over, we have power between. And we have cooperation and regeneration and sustainability, and we prioritize people and the environment over profits. So that's our positive vision of the future. And the next, basically, half of this presentation is different steps that we can take to start moving over there. So I will pass to Chelsea.
Thank you so much, Sarah and Bobby. I mean, both sides of the coin there. There's so much good energy to keep harnessing and moving us into this most critical part of the call tonight in a lot of ways. But just to really, try to summarize there briefly, all those wonderful things we just heard. Let's keep heading into 2025 ready to disrupt business as usual, right? We know authoritarianism isn't going to go away, and none of this is going to be easy, but we know that this level of organizing and intensification of our struggle is necessary, and that's what we'll keep doing. And if each of us find and walk our path in the movement and take ownership of it, it will really help transform our outcomes. Every single action is adding up and moving us towards mitigating the worst impacts of the climate crisis. It really does work that way. We'll never get to know which of our actions did it, but we'll know that we added to something again and again without the luxury of knowing how exactly is it going to turn out amongst this uncertainty. So let's keep building trust with one another and ourselves. Let's listen to our gut. Let's move forward with as much, heartfulness for our community and our state and our planet as we can. And as Sarah was saying there so eloquently, just envisioning a positive future. We have to do that. Conditions are going to change, and we will change alongside those things. We really do have the fortitude to build something beautiful. These were a string of words I heard this week that I thought were really, really nice. So with that, let us talk about our goals and how you all can play a role with really bringing those to life. We'll have these 3 buckets that we are going to speak to, and these are all goals that are coming directly from our strategic plan. So if you'd like to meet after this and go over it and get to learn more about what we're doing there, let's do that. But we will break it down this way. So maybe have a pen and paper or something ready to go to really write down what jumps out to you and how you want to jump in. And if it helps you, we do have some of these tags describing some of these roles a little further. So if you need help kind of discerning what kind of skills you want to lend, what kind of skills you want to build on and be a little uncomfortable with, you might see these tags, these color-coded ones show up. And you see how this relates to our bodies of work here with movement building, campaigns, keeping our operations flowing, and resources being resourced. So with that, let us get into the first round here within operations of ways that you all can contribute. And I will pass it over to Micah.
Hey, everybody. Thanks so much again for joining, and thanks for all the great sharing and everything you've shared so far, 350 team. And we so appreciate all of you for being here tonight and being willing to plug in and ready to play a bigger part of 350 Colorado and the climate movement. Part of it, of course, that we have to do is we have to raise money to be able to keep all these wonderful staff members and keep our campaigns funded and keep building and do all of the things that we need to do as an organization. So we have a fundraising team that works together. Almost everything we do, we like to do as a team or in committees or in coalitions, and this is no exception. So fundraising is, super important for all of our work and making sure that we can continue to sustain and ideally even grow. And we'll move to the next slide. And you can certainly take part in that if, oops, it went to the wrong slide, I think.
Not sure how we did that. Sorry.
That's okay. There are several different ways that you can take part in fundraising. If you've never done fundraising before, that's okay. We would love to have you, and there are ways that you can pitch in. We have a fundraising committee that meets every other week, and the fundraising committee is doing work to write grants and to reach out to potential large donors. We're starting to try to reach out to more businesses in the community. We haven't done much of that work, and we really need to. Unfortunately, last year, we actually had our first ever budget shortfall, so we weren't happy with that, and that's not sustainable. We luckily have savings, so we were able to weather that, but we need to find additional new sources of funding. So So we're going to be reaching out to more businesses, and we need help. I mean, we're a small staff team, and our development director, who's not here tonight, but Bridget, she's only part-time. And so we are always looking for volunteers for every part of our work, including fundraising. And I'll just mention while I say that if you, when you're listening to us tonight, if you're thinking about certain roles that maybe we don't mention, but you see the need for and you're interested in, just know that we're very open to new ideas and ways of working, and definitely would appreciate your ideas and your participation. So just feel free to reach out to us with those ideas. So yeah, business and company outreach, grant writing and research. If you have experience, all the better, but certainly we can train you and help you learn while we learn, and help to meet our fundraising goals. So I'll stop there and pass it on. Oh, I think actually I'm taking this next section. I wanted to take this moment, actually, I believe she's still here, to introduce, she just started today, our brand new communications coordinator, Allie Wodar. Allie, if you're there and want to come off camera and wave to folks, say hello, that would be great. I'm not sure if she's still there or not, but oh, there she. I just heard her voice. Yeah. Thanks so much, Allie. We're so happy to have you.
Like, hey, let's get going.
So for communications, we it's one of the most important things that we do, frankly, both with our members. Of course, there's communications, our emails that you all get, our monthly newsletters. Occasionally we send texts and things like that. We have one-to-one meetings. We have different campaign committee meetings and all of that. And we have emails that go out to everyone. We also are on social media, and we try to get our messages out through traditional media to reach beyond the choir, because our opposition, the fossil fuel industry, they have, as y'all know, a lot of money. They have a lot of power, that because of that money and influence, they are able to be on the airwaves, on TV, radio, regularly, on digital ads, touting how wonderful and clean and sustainable they are. And we know that's not true. And we don't have the kind of money, we don't have the millions and billions that they have to spend on advertising. So we have to be creative, and we need as much help as possible. And that means people like y'all who are interested in being part of the work on communications, whether you're really good on social media or you enjoy it and you would like to join our social media engagement team, help us uplift social media, or share content, create content with us. We would love to have that help. Writers, if anyone likes to write and you'd like to join our letter to the editor and opinion editorial team, or our newsletter committee, which writes articles and blogs monthly to share with all of our members. Great opportunity for learning, for everybody to share things and ways to take action together. And so those are a couple of different ways that you could get involved with our communications. And also, we're always looking for experts. If you happen to have expertise in PR or messaging, or you know how to create really awesome digital ads, we are also looking for that sort of support too. So just be in touch with either me, and all of us, by the way, are our first names followed by @350colorado.org. So just know you can always get in touch with us that way, if you'd like to be involved with any of these roles. Thank you.
Thank you, Micah. And just to say, yeah, as it pertains to operations, there's a lot that goes into just making critical connections, things that move along messaging and funding and resourcing. So if anything spoke to you there, just make note of that.
Yeah, and I would just finish up too. It was on the first communication slide, just that we still have a lot of work to do because of the advertising campaigns from the fossil fuel industry. a lot of the public has a more favorable impression of the fossil fuel industry and fracking and things like that than they should if they really knew the facts. So our job is to change what was in that slide. It was the Overton window, and that's the what's acceptable, you know, and to talk about and think about in our society. And we need to expand that and shift it and really move the public sentiment toward climate action and not allowing the fossil fuel industry to continue as they have to pollute our air and our climate and our land and water. So yeah, thank you.
Well said. Yeah, I'd add to the challenges we talked about earlier, to cast aside if you ever think that, oh, someone else will take care of it, or there's so many other people that they're already working with, they don't need me. Definitely not true. Everyone is needed. Everyone is appreciated. So speaking to some movement building first, with statewide stuff and the work that I get to do, you know, our goals from year to year with movement building are pretty much the same. We want to build a critical mass movement that is centered around those values we talked about earlier, and prioritizing collaboration and coalition building. So that's the long-term vision. We want a big, powerful movement here in the state and beyond. But short term, we are looking to really revitalize our shared efforts to engage folks to just keep doing their part in the ways that they can in an ongoing way. We know there's so many demands in the world, so finding a regular way to be involved is no easy thing, but we are here to help with that. Because the more that we work with one another to see that each of us as activists are connected to one another, interconnected to the bigger movement, and then feeling those forms of resiliency and passion that we ultimately need to move things forward, those are going to be the secret ingredients and really moving us towards a powerful movement. And I love this Dolores Huerta quote. I find to be impactful that every moment we have really is an organizing opportunity, because every person is a potential activist, and then we have every minute as a chance to change the world. So if movement building, connecting with people, skill building, seeing people grow in their leadership, if that's the kind of stuff that speaks to you, we have a couple cool roles that we are looking to get more folks into. One of those things is a ZIP leader. I think we might even have a couple ZIP leaders here tonight, so shout out. That is an acronym to refer to zoning interpersonal power, and it is also referring to one zip code that they reside in. So effectively, we are looking for leaders for each and every zip code in Colorado to be doing that really on the ground local recruitment and organizing with your neighbors and your community members to work together to feed into our campaigns, maybe work on your own things, distribute information, just grow the network, right? Really see that there's more distribution of efforts and participation so that this is grassroots. General recruitment and outreach as a leader to that would be tremendously helpful. We want to be at festivals and concerts and in parks with pop-up events to pass out popsicles. We want to find different ways to get out into different parts of Colorado and bring people into the movement. So if you're interested in something that allows you to do dynamic different things and talking to people and meeting so many interesting people along the way, that would be a fantastic role. Some comms and campaigns knowledge built into that. And the last thing I'll speak to there is our Youth Action Committee. Currently, we have two co-chairs, two wonderful youth leaders in high school that are helping lead that space, but we need more folks to come in and to contribute in the ways that they can. So if you are 24 or younger, the Youth Action Committee might be a really great space for you. We want youth in all of our spaces, but if you want to connect specifically with other people more in your age group or more similar interests, Youth Action Committee is a great place to go. So if you'd like to learn more about that, let me know. I'd love to connect. And as Micah shared about our emails, you'll see a screen for that here by the end of this evening. So I will pass it over to Sarah.
Thanks, Chelsea. So we have a lot of super exciting stuff going on with the NOCO team. So if you live in Fort Collins, Loveland, Estes Park, Greeley, that sort of area, you'd be on the NOCO team if that's of interest to you. Our primary areas of focus are clean energy, community education, and we're trying to just fight for good stuff in Northern Colorado. So we have our Greeley Clean Air, which is one of our biggest projects, and we are in Greeley building a movement there to fight for clean air. It's a super heavily fracked and polluted place, so we're doing a lot of education and community empowerment in Greeley. So if that's of interest of you, let me know. And we are also fighting a new gas power plant that the Platte River Power Authority is trying to build. Platte River gives power to Fort Collins, Loveland, Estes Park, and Longmont. And we are not wanting a big new gas plant. So we've been going to board meetings and city council meetings and giving public comment. We've been holding rallies, and we are going to keep fighting because we know that there is no need for a huge new gas plant. And some of the roles that we have are a leadership council member. If you want to be helping planning these kind of things, or if you just want to have a bigger role on the team, that's a great place. And it kind of encapsulates everything, but you can do what you feel most comfortable with, or we can work with you based on what your skills are and what you want to learn. And then we're also just looking for Greeley Clean Air teammates. If you are interested in education or air quality or air monitoring data, that would be a great place. And we have opportunities to do stuff remotely, or you can work in person and come to our events and help out with that kind of thing. And I will be passing it to Melissa.
Incredible. Yes. So, I'm going to talk to you a little bit if you're based in Denver, greater Denver metro area, and then Boulder County and Colorado Springs. Denver is really special and powerful because we are the state capital, and there is so much energy and collective power that can happen around the legislative session, which you're going to hear a little bit more about from Matt and Heidi. But it is helpful because being in Denver makes it really accessible to be involved and watch what's happening with climate legislation. And then in addition to supporting that work, we also hold our Suncor Action Committee. If you see this photo on the screen with that yellow gas, that the smoke that's coming out, a lot of people know of or do not know about Suncor, which is based in Commerce City. It makes the zip code 80216 the most polluted zip code in the entire United States, which not a lot of people know that when they come to Denver or come to Colorado, that they're here with this fresh, clean mountain air. Yes, I see that in the chat, Wendy. It's quite the smell. And that zip code also holds up the Purina dog food factory plant and a host of EPA Superfund sites. So that community is just hit over and over and over again. And we know that we need to transition away from reliance on oil. And so that committee really works to target Suncor and focus on trying to hold them accountable. Those meetings happen once a month on Mondays, and our next one will be February 10th. And that you can always reach out to talk more. But just like Sarah was saying, the Denver team is additionally looking for more leadership council members, people who are willing to take the extra step and meet and plan some of those core events that happen each month. And always looking for more media and communications help in terms of social media or emails, things like LTEs or op-eds, letters to the editor. Then those are all spaces for you. If you go to the next slide for Boulder County, this is a really cool team because it has really been rebuilt, and there's a lot of people who are interested in working with the city council and with Boulder. So we are focusing right now a lot on clean energy, on supporting student organizing at CU. There was a project proposed in Boulder County that had to do with fracking, so making sure things like that to when they come up that we're ready for it. That is also a space that is, as we keep saying, looking for leadership council members, looking for more involvement. And that team has a public meeting that happens every second Thursday of the month at Junkyard Social. So there's always a public space that you can come to and learn more about what's going on. Finally, if you go to Colorado Springs, then this is another team that is really being built back up, and there is people who are interested in green transportation and advocacy for safe walking around Colorado Springs, and then also a lot of energy towards sustainable agriculture. So that group is looking there. It's special because they also have the Drake coal plant that was shut down just a couple years back, and people are kind of watchdogging that space to make sure that whatever goes up in its place is something that we also want. That has a public team meeting this month that is happening on the 28th of January, and you can also reach out for that. The last thing I will say before passing over the mic to Steve to talk about the Roaring Fork is that I'm Melissa and I get to coordinate all of these spaces, but I actually personally will be leaving at the end of the month. So I won't be the face that you continue to speak with, but I'm here as a resource through the end of January, and will make sure I direct you to the right people if you have any questions or thoughts. And now I will pass it to Steve.
Thanks, Melissa, and thanks everybody who's come before me here. We're in the Roaring Fork Valley. That means we're in the western part of the state. And what we have going on here is just a volunteer committee here. I just wanted to kind of share one quick thing. I was a volunteer first with 350 Colorado. The opening came to be a coordinator and here in the Roaring Fork Valley. And the opportunity allowed me to become an activist in so many more ways. Well, so many more other groups also started showing up. And I have to say that now my new hobby is to reach out through tabling, educating, bringing together good people who feel the heat of the moment. So I'd like to get everybody together that lives in this part of the state to immediately help out. And then, of course, we all work together throughout the whole state. I do also want to add that a single leaf working alone provides no shade. So that's one thing that I've definitely learned over time here. So our goals so far have been to connect our elder communities with environmental school clubs. It's been exciting to watch people that are forgotten sometimes how important they are to be a bigger part of the environmental movement. We also are about protecting our waters and rivers. We have the Colorado River running right through Glenwood Canyon here. And up in the top left there, you'll see our no oil spills in our rivers. Please look into that. We are so committed to making sure that this poison train from Utah does not come through our neck of the woods and possibly have an oil spill, which could destroy the Colorado River for all future generations. We have worked in the past on divestment. It's still a great way to engage and educate how to fight the billionaires' greed that's all around us. We are always looking to create a larger volunteer organization, and that's why we're going with elders, environmental school clubs. And we have had so much new energy through attending our documentary series. We have local areas here, libraries and so on. We have shown now 7 documentaries, and we've also been able to show screenings of award-winning documentaries through generous opportunities from organizations like the Hollywood Climate Summit. And we are working at getting that even growing bigger. And the last exciting thing on our goals is to develop an online watch party that will reach many groups, which will allow us to gather together from all over the state, even when we can't be in the same room, and learn, watch, communicate, chat, and then go and develop new programs from that. We need more leadership in the community. We're looking for a possible physical location for meetings and networking. That would be a huge help if we could get people to help with that idea. That comes through grants. We want to develop volunteers at more public events. We want to get the message out in the region. We work with local groups here too. We're working right now with something called Save Spring Valley. There's a lot of builders out here in the Roaring Fork Valley that we're trying to get them to understand that growth is not always what we need in the valley. And we want to take advantage actually of the energy which is being created by this oligarchical leader who doesn't believe in the science of climate change and would unapologetically take us to a climate catastrophe. So we're passionate about what we're doing here. We get together as a group every week. I love this organization, and I hope that people that are part of it are definitely also in the same place, and we would love to have you join us. So, hey, Melissa, take over, please. Thanks.
Steve. That was a lot of good stuff on the movement building front, whether you're looking for that local stuff or the statewide stuff or both. No right or wrong answers there. Just, yeah, ways to really activate and help grow the movement. So let's wrap up on goals and roles under campaigns here, and I will pass it over to Bobby for keeping fossil fuels in the ground.
Thank you, Chelsea. So I help lead up our work around moving Colorado beyond oil and gas. So that's part of our bigger goal of keeping fossil fuels in the ground, right? And within this area of work, within this campaign, we have some long-term goals and short-term goals. Long-term goals, we want to, I think I have these switched on the slide. So the short-term goals are to uplift and connect fracking frontline communities. We have so many communities in Colorado facing fracking in their neighborhoods, in their backyards, and we are uplifting their voices, connecting them to each other and to resources so that they can fight back against fracking. Second is our efforts to put out powerful and informative public education and communications about the true costs of oil and gas extraction in Colorado, the harm that it causes to our health, our environment, and our economy. And that leads to our long-term goal, which is to ultimately phase out new fracking permits in Colorado by 2030 with a just transition, a fair and fast transition for Colorado workers and communities that are currently dependent on oil and gas extraction in our state. So that's our big goals under this campaign area. And ways you can help and be a part of this campaign include, on our next slide, helping to lead our our fracking action committee. We have a committee of volunteers. Some of you that are here tonight and many of you could join us in this committee where we work together to learn about fracking, share information about fracking, and take action together to push back and protect our communities and our environment and our climate from oil and gas fracking in Colorado. And we need some leaders. I'm inviting some more ownership and leadership from committee members. Second, we need some folks to help us with more effective watchdogging the state agencies that regulate oil and gas and commenting on oil and gas permits. We permit about 1,000 new oil and gas wells in Colorado every year, and we can be a part of the process of speaking truth to power about those permits. And finally, we need communication amplifiers. I mentioned that effort to put out more effective public education and communications. We have a new communications coordinator that will help us produce some of that content. And we need all of us to help amplify the message, right? To share it on social media, write op-eds, help create content like videos and blog posts, and all kinds of ways that we can amplify the message. So those are some roles that you can be a part of, that you can take on within the Keep Fossil Fuels in the Ground campaign. Please reach out and join us.
Over to Heidi.
Yeah, talking about climate policy, this overlaps with both keeping fossil fuels in the ground and promoting climate solutions. We work a lot on regulation, which is, as the slide says, where the rubber meets the road, because once a law gets passed, it doesn't go into effect until the agencies actually pass the nitty-gritty rules to achieve the goals of the law. There are many important opportunities for public comment and using your voice in regulations. Our long-term goal is to make sure that we continue to strengthen the rules to put our laws into action and to continue to get more laws passed to move us more quickly in this transition. And our short-term goals are to work in coalition, building up coalition to advance policy goals that are shared among many organizations. And if we could go to the next slide. So roles in our policy committee are, there's always a chance for public comment on things that are going on. both for regulations, but also for laws that we're trying to get passed in committee hearings. And in rulemakings, oftentimes we form work groups of volunteers to look at the rules, to make talking points and toolkits. It is really important that we track events and send reminders for meetings and public comments, so I could use some help for the admin on that and to help gather resources to counter misinformation. And anyone who, if you see a fossil fuel ad that is making it sound like they're doing good things for the community, or we have the cleanest molecule, etc., please take a screenshot, grab the video, and send it to me, Heidi at 350colorado.org, because we are really trying to work on taking the power away from the industry and countering their misinformation through policy and laws. And then also, as other people have said, we always need people to write LTEs and opinion pieces on all topics, including rulemakings that are going on and laws that we're trying to get passed. And with that, I will pass it along.
Thanks, Heidi. So yeah, I'm going to talk about promoting solutions here for a quick second, but in the interest of time, I'm going to try to go quickly. So yeah, promoting solutions, what does that mean? And how does it intersect with these different groups? It's kind of in three ways. So promoting solutions itself and the committee that I run, we meet on the first Wednesdays of the month from 6 to 7 p.m. And these are really cool calls where we try to bring in experts in different fields. Just hearing in the chat talking about Go Electric, we'd love to have them come in and speak as well. But just highlighting what's already going on in the state and where people need help and what is the science behind it. That is one aspect of it. We also are looking to do more tours this year, with tours of Jack's Solar Garden, clean energy homes, all of that good stuff. And then yeah, where it kind of intersects a little more with climate policy and what Heidi's got going on. I host a legislative action committee on the first and third Mondays of the month from 5 to 6 p.m. And it just is kind of an introductory way to get your footing when it comes to like understanding how a bill is processed. What does it mean when a bill goes to committee? How can I testify? How easy is it? All those kind of questions we answer. We also do a lot of bill monitoring of bills that we are opposing and advocating for. So it's a pretty cool one-stop shop there. Also host a defunding climate disaster committee, looking on changing the time for this one. But yeah, looking to keep stop fossil fuel financing and advocate for green banks and ethical insurance companies. The long goals, which is a big long-term goals, which is a blanket for all of this, I guess, is securing and supporting and amplifying pro-climate and ecological policies at the legislature, regulatory agencies, and other governmental bodies. And that bleeds into everything from defunding climate disaster all the way over to these promoting solutions things. But short term, we have a lot of opportunities coming up with the legislative session for legislative action and lobbying for pro-climate bills and against bills that would set us back. And then, yeah, bringing in experts to speak in their various fields. If we could pop over to that next slide for some roles really quickly. Cool. So all of these different committees have a bunch of spaces for people to plug into. I'll explain a couple of these really quickly here with what co-chairs mean. It can be as involved as you'd like, but more so looking to just have another person to bounce ideas off of. You find a cool person you'd want to hear speak at one of our promoting climate solutions calls, being able to maybe make that introduction or bring people in. Looking for that co-chair role in our legislative action committee, promoting climate solutions committee, and defunding climate disaster committee. We're also always looking for note takers at our different meetings. It doesn't necessarily have to be one person's job, but it saves so much time and makes the meeting so much more fluid. And then watchdoggers. You might be wondering, what are watchdoggers? What are bird doggers? You're going to hear those terms a couple of times. And specifically with legislative action, that's kind of finding out like when town halls are, when are different committees meeting to discuss separate bills, when is there an opportunity for people to testify and say their piece. The more eyes we have on that, the easier it is. And then lastly, this is my quick pitch for Climate Lobby Day. We have an event every year. We partner with all kinds of different organizations. Last year we had over 60 organizations on board with us, and we had 180 participants. It's kind of a one-stop shop to help figure out, how do I lobby? What does it mean to go in and pull a legislator out with a card? and talk to them and have a conversation with these people, get to know them on more of a personal level, and advocate for what you believe in. We're planning to do that this year on March 7th, 2025. And if you are interested, just so you know, pop over to our Facebook page. It should be one of those first event things you see when you open up 350 Colorado's Facebook page. But yeah, with that, I'm going to drop it back to Chelsea for a quick poll here.
Thank you. Appreciate everyone working with the time here because there's so many exciting things for us to share. We have one last final poll for y'all, and we are wrapped up in there because we know we just covered a lot of ground and heard about so many neat ways to plug in, things to try out, things to challenge yourself maybe in. So as I open up this poll, you can select more than one answer, but curious, just, what area or areas of work have stood out to you that you see yourself activating in further or being a part of. So has launched, people should see that pop up on their screen now. We're going to give folks just a minute to fill this out because when I hit end poll, we can see the results. And this is going to help us too, because as we follow up with you with the recording, with these slides, we want to connect. We want to get to know you more. We want to get you plugged in. Tonight is such a great starting point and really just kicking off what we see as good work for the rest of the year. All right, let's say 10 more seconds on the poll. This is exciting. This is a really nice breakdown of intel. All right, 3, 2, 1. Okay. So folks should be able to see some of those results there. It looks like we got a good distribution. We have a lot of people that are excited about solutions, people that want to keep it in the ground, and also supporting local action. I see you 9 something else, as Micah said earlier. If there was something we didn't speak to and you're like, what about this? We want to hear about it. We want to talk about it. There's certainly a way that we could get you plugged into that. So thank you for taking a moment to fill that out there. And as we go forward here, and as I was saying about us connecting, let's just really find that intentionality to unite with one another and our shared cause and our shared purpose here. Considering your roles and your leadership that you can play and really helping transform and boost the movement in this serious time of need. We know it's a journey, but we are truly here to support you in that. So keep checking those places for more information about our events and our meetings and our actions. If you go to 350colorado.org, we have an action dashboard that's updated every week, as well as a calendar that's really handy and easy to share with your networks too. Following us on social media is also a great idea if you're not doing that already, because Instagram and Facebook keep good updates in addition to our email list. So with that, here's how you get a hold of us. Pretty simple formula with our first name and at 350colorado.org. We cannot thank you enough for being here tonight and for sharing and really just doing this good work with us. It's truly the thrill and the honor of a lifetime to be able to work on the climate crisis with so many passionate, cool, dedicated people that really mean business. We can do this, y'all. I love these 2 quotes, and that's what we'll leave you with here. Movements are born of critical connections rather than critical mass. So let's continue to get to work together and know each other. And our ability to grow is directly proportional to our the ability to entertain the uncomfortable. And sometimes organizing does have that, but it's okay. We grow in those moments and find really unique self-transformation sometimes. With that, I'm going to stop the recording here.